The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this week. My name is Tanya, and I'm the marketing manager over here at Struxoft Solutions. So just for those of you who are new with us today, our star solution, MWF, which stands for Metal Wood Framer, is our Revit-based BIM framing solution that allows users to automate Revit walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses in like H steel and also in wood. So today, however, our technician Aparna will be walking you through how to transfer project standards and MWF settings. So she'll be covering transferring Revit project standards, bringing in families, exporting and importing MWF settings, and also tips when upgrading to newer builds. So just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that at the end of the webinar, we'll be taking a couple of live questions. In order to be selected, please press the raise hand button on the dashboard. Just please also make sure that your mic is working correctly. If you'd prefer, you can also ask questions throughout the webinar in the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. For those ones, we'll make sure to get back to you by email within 24 hours. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Aparna now.
Hi everyone, my name is Aparna Bhatia and I'm the Senior Implementation Specialist at Struxoft. And today we're going to discuss how to transfer our project standards from Project A to Project B and how to also transfer our MWF settings. So typically when you have a project that you've just finished, we highly recommend you create Office standards or like an Office Revit template that you can save all of your standards into. So today we're going to try to transfer our standards between projects and also build a template right out of that. So let's see how to do that. So here I have a residential project and I'm going to have that open, and the project that I'm copying from is called Residential Birches, and the project I'm copying it into is called Residential Atlas Apartments. All right. So this project here, the one I'm going to be copying it into, is blank. It has nothing. And the reason for that is I have already set up my previous project as a multi-layer project. So it has the walls in there that I need, and then the walls are mapped to templates, there are templates mapped to walls, along with like the sheeting layouts that we need for them as well have been mapped to those walls. So I'm going to be copying those walls over as well. So let's get started. Typically, when we are copying our standards over, we need to be mindful of what we need to copy over. You could very easily just say, yep, I want to grab everything and push it over, but sometimes you might have some project-specific things, like maybe this residential birches project is actually a flat roof, but you might have a sloped roof for the Residential Atlas Apartments project. So little things like that, you might not need specific details, you might not need some wall types and so on and so forth. So you might not need to bring those in as well, right? So for a shop drawing, we would need to definitely bring in our schedules. We'll need to bring in our dimension styles, our tags if we're using any, our text styles, so that we can have all of our schedules look accurate. And our view templates are really important, especially if you have assigned any of these settings to your shop drawing settings, right? Or any of these elements to your shop drawing settings. So to start off, first thing we'll do is go to the Manage tab, and we'll make sure that we open the project that we're copying from and the project that we're copying to within the same Revit session. So what that means is I can actually go to the project I'm copying from, which is here, and then go to another tab, and that would be the project I'm copying to. Both of them need to be open in the same Revit session. You can see that there's not multiple Revit sessions open, it's just single. So that's what you need to be, you need to make sure you do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the project I'm copying it into, or standards into, and go to Manage. And I'll click on this Transfer Project Standards button on Revit. So Revit allows you to transfer all of these standards over. And you can copy from, you have to choose which project you want to copy from. So if you have multiple projects open, just make sure you adjust this copy from and choose the project you actually want to copy the data from. All right. And now sometimes you could say all, like we'll bring everything in. But in our case, we're actually going to go and select the few items that we want to bring in, because we are going to set this up and make this our new office template, right? So in order for us to do that, let's go through the list and see what we might need. So annotation families and family label types, you might want to bring those in. Those could be anything from like your grid bubbles to your symbols for your stairs, to any of those crazy elements in Revit that you have available. And then we are going to definitely bring in the arrowhead styles because they're being used for our dimensions. We can also bring in our browser organization. Okay, so in the other project that I have open, I actually have a browser organization set up for sheets and schedules basically. And it separates all of my shop drawings from the rest of the views or the rest of the sheets. And that's very helpful. If I just want to print all my shop drawings, I'll just select everything which is in that little section and try to print those, right? So browser organization is helpful. It will put it in under a folder, and all of your shop drawings will be available under a folder. You can separate it by L1, L2, however you please. You can bring in your building type settings. It's not necessary, but you can if you'd like. Typically, that's used, I think, for analysis and for mechanical purposes as well. And if you did create any custom callout types, go ahead and bring those in. This could be anything from changing the size of the bubble to changing the text format of that. So you can bring that in. If you have any custom ceiling types you've created, bring that in as well. Since I'm copying it from residential to residential, I don't mind bringing those model elements in as well. If you created any color fill schemes, you can go ahead and bring those in. So if you have room schedules or room color fill schedules as well, you can bring those in. And then we have quite a few settings for conduit types and curtain wall systems and things like that. I don't need to bring those in. I don't have any of those in the other project. However, I will bring in my cut mark type styles, and I will also bring my dimension styles in because we need to use those for our shop drawings. So if we forget to bring those in and we bring in our shop drawing settings, it will be like, hey, you told me I'm going to use linear 2.5 millimeter dimensions. Where are they? So you might get a lot of errors for that reason. So make sure you bring those in for sure. From electrical stuff, we don't need to. Any fabric area, so like your rebars and stuff, we might not need to bring those in. Fill patterns. If you have created materials for fire rating, or if you've created materials for even your studs, maybe to state what gauge they're on or what gauge they are. Like if it's a 68 gauge and you're making it green or purple or something like that, you want to bring in your fill patterns. Maybe if you added a custom fill pattern or you added a custom fill pattern, you can bring those in as well. And then your filled region is another thing that you should bring in. Maybe you're doing some detailing, you've created concrete hatches, you created some tile hatches and stuff like that. You can definitely bring those in. And then filters. Filters are very, very important to bring in, especially if you're using them in your view templates. So in your view templates, you might have a filter set up for making all of the sheathing transparent. So you can see through and see all the studs behind or beyond, right? So you might have created a few filters for that. You might have created filters for QA/QC to see what each stud is. So maybe like a 68 gauge stud. You might have it be purple, and then 33 gauge you'll have it be green or cyan or something like that. So you might have already set up filters for that, and you just want to bring them in. It's a good idea to bring those in using this button here. And then floor types. Same situation. If you've created any custom floor types that you will be using in this project. Go ahead and bring all of them in. And then grid types and level types. So these two, grid types and level types, it might not seem like a big deal to bring them in, but if you do have something like you've created a custom bubble for a grid or a level, maybe like for existing grids, you might have a diamond shape for the bubble. And then for new grids, you might have a circle shape. And for demo grids, you might have a dashed bubble shape that you've created in the other project. You can bring all of those settings into this one using this tool. All right, and then again, halftone underlay settings. Maybe you've set something to halftone, but you're just like, I actually don't like it 50%. I want it to be maybe 65%. That's what I like to see on my sheets. Then you can bring those settings in because you've already made those changes, right? And then line patterns, line styles, and line weights. These three are very important, especially if you've created markers and bridging types that are associated to these lines. You should definitely bring them in. Otherwise, you'll be looking at a bunch of errors because they're trying to find these line types, right? So bring in line patterns, styles, and line weights. And then what we're going to bring, if you want to bring in load types, if you're doing if you've done any analysis on the model, whether it is structural analysis, you can bring those in as well if you like. I like to bring in my materials, especially if I've set up something for like fire treated wood. I need a separate material for that so that in 3D I can actually identify which areas are fire treated and which areas I may have missed to fire treat. So I'd like to bring in my materials. Maybe I might have created custom ones that I like for certain studs and so on and so forth. So that would be nice to bring in. And then model text types, again, same thing. Might have created some custom ones. You would like to bring those in. And object styles. I highly recommend bringing in object styles if you have done something like, okay, well, it's a framing model. I don't really want to see the walls to be very bold. I would like to see them a little like, you know, half-toned maybe, or I want the line thickness to be much lighter. So what I can do is bring in my object styles that I've already fixed in that other project. So I might have made my line thickness for my walls to be from 5, I've made it 2. And maybe I might have changed the color from black to gray, just so that I can see it in a lighter tone and my framing pops up even more, right? So I might have done all of those changes, so now I can bring those changes in. Then panel schedules are typically for electrical. So if you are an electrical contractor, go ahead and bring those in. Phase settings. So I bring in the phase settings, especially if you have something that might need to use phases, like if you have an existing phase or a demo phase or a new construction phase, and you maybe said, okay, all of my demo stuff has to show up as red and dashed. In this model, it's probably not set up as demo, red and dashed, right? So now I'm going to bring those settings in so it captures all of those changes that I've made. All right, and then pipes, if you want to bring in your pipe types, go ahead and bring those in, especially if you're doing clash detection. You can feel free to bring those in here. And then your print settings. So if you have a specific printer, you have specified exactly how you want to print your shop drawings, you can bring those print settings in. You can say that, oh, all my shop drawings are supposed to be 11 by 17. I made those changes in the other project. I'm not going to make those changes again because it's already been done. I'm just bringing them in. So then the other thing is project information and project parameters. These two are like project info is technically optional, but if you have done, if you have created any custom parameters that need to get added to project info, I would bring project information in. Custom parameters for project info would be something like my title block has consultants' names on them. So it will say the architect's name, it'll say the structural engineer's name, or the structural engineering company, the architectural consultancy that's working on the project, construction company, and then our subcontractors maybe. And I created a parameter for that so I could show all of their names and type them up in the title blocks. So that would be project info and project parameters values that you will need to bring in. And then project parameters could also be like, I created a fire treated parameter for all of my wood studs so that I can create a new type and call it fire treated and check that button on. So that might be a custom parameter I created and I want it to be assigned to the same categories in this project, okay? So that would be why you would bring in your project parameters. So once we bring in our project parameters, there's a few other things you can bring in if you want to bring in your ramp types, your rebar types, your repeating detail types. Repeating details, again, I would bring them in case, just in case you created any typical details. And repeating details are basically things that maybe I have a profile of a brick drawn in, and I want, whenever I draw a line, I want it to basically draw that many pieces of the brick, you know, like maybe in a section view or something like that. So if you have set up any custom repeating details, go ahead and bring those in. Same thing with reveal types. If you do have those, bring those in. For me, I do not have them in the other project. I don't need to bring them in. Roof types, if you're using a flat roof versus a gable roof, or you've created different types for both of them in that other project, then go ahead and bring them in. But if your roofs are different, or you know you might not need to use any of those roofs, then you don't need to bring those in. I like to bring them in for this case because it's going to be a flat roof project as well, right? Section tag types, you can bring those in as well. Let's see, spot dimension settings, you can bring those in. Those are basically for like your elevations and stuff. Some folks like to add them to the shop drawings as a post process so that they can show what the elevation of the blocking is, as an example, right? Structural settings, if you're doing any analysis, go ahead and bring those in. Text types, if you should bring those in definitely for your shop drawings. You might have used those text styles in your schedules and stuff, so you should definitely bring those in. And then you will definitely need to bring in view reference, view templates, and viewports. View reference is really helpful when you have multiple, like if you have a really large project and then you're slicing it into smaller pieces, and you might have created some specific view reference types, you can bring those in as well. And then wall types. I am definitely bringing my wall types in because the other project is multi-layer, and I need to be able to copy my walls in because all of my multi-layer templates or all of my single layer templates are assigned to walls within the multi-layer settings, right? So I'm bringing those in for sure. So I'll just hit OK here. This takes a quick second. And over here, it gives you the option to overwrite them or new only. I'm going to overwrite them because there's nothing in this project, so feel free to overwrite them. But if you do have something in the project, you might want to only do new only. Yeah, you can feel free to overwrite any of these. So now that all of our settings have been transferred or project standards have been transferred, now we can move on to our to copying in our families. So if I go to the other project that I have here, there's a few ways I can copy in my families, okay? So if I know exactly which families I want to bring in, what I can do is I can just say, oh, I want this dimensional lumber column. I can go right click, save, and I'm going to find my folder, webinar and family. And then over here, I'm just going to save it over top of whatever I currently have. So I'll just, I'll save that in this folder, okay? So this is one way I can save my families. Do you want to replace it? Yeah, for sure, why not? Okay, that's one way, but that's too tedious, right? I have to remember which ones and all that fun stuff. I don't want to do that, that's too time consuming. So what I can do now is if I go to File, Save As, and go to Library, I can save everything in this project as a library. So I'm going to export, I can export anything from families, groups, or views. I'm going to export families. Again, guide myself to that folder, family library. And I can do something like, okay, you can either do all of your families, which will take a little bit of time, so be very mindful of that. You can do all of your families, and that's great if that's what you want to do. Or you can do it selectively and say, no, I actually only want a few families. So I'm just going to come here and say, maybe let's save, Get the structural framing tag, why not? So I'll save the structural framing tag. And over here for file name, it says same as family name. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted to say because we wanted to save the family as M_structural family tag. Okay, so that's great. We can do it this way. The other option to load in families would be basically to come to your new project, go to insert and load family. And then you can load them from our MWF folder. So if you click over here, it'll take you to the MWF folder. And I can click here and say dimensional number, load all of these families in. Great. But again, this is too tedious and you have to remember every single size that the other project had because those sizes might actually be used in templates. So you don't know if you need them or not yet, right? So the benefit of going right-click save or saving the library from here instead of importing it from the MWF like library that we have is that I'll show you a quick thing. So if I come here, I have the folder opened. And you can see that when it saves the family, it doesn't save the TXT file. So it won't pop up a dialog box to ask you like, hey, which families do you want to bring in? Which is what the MWF library will do. It will pop up a dialog box because it has a few that you can load in, right? Here, it's only exported whatever was in that project. So the benefit of this is if I control click, well, technically I can click all of them. So shift click all of them and I'll drag and drop them here. So when I drag and drop them, if you did have any of those families, it will ask you, do you want to override the duplicates? I would say go ahead and override the duplicates. But if I come here, you see, I don't have to select any sizes. It's already bringing in the sizes that are already existing in that other project. So if you've already cleaned up that project, now you have all of your sizes already preloaded in here, right? So if any of these sizes are being used in a template, you will not get an error because it can find them here, right? So that's what we need to do for that. And after we do all of our families that we want to bring into this project, what we're going to do is we are going to export our schedules from Revit. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but you can do this, I think, from, I think it started Revit 2019 and onwards, or 2020 and onwards, but you can actually copy paste your schedules. So if I come here, what happened to my schedules? Oh, there you are. Jeez, those are my sheets. So up here, you can see that my browser organizer is view name prefix, and this one is sheet prefix. So I can sort everything that says P or starts with P, and it will collect all of them because all of my panels here are labeled panel number, panel, and then some number assigned to it. So if you have something like exterior or level 1 or level 2, you can set up your browser organizer that way. So that's the benefit of that. But now let's copy our schedules. So we'll come here into schedules. I also have a view name prefix here. So all my master container or my master schedules will be located here, and all of my shop drawing schedules will be located here. So this helps you not crowd like all of your typical schedules. Maybe the architects are working in the same project with or same file as you. Their schedules can be somewhere else, and your shop drawing schedules are not, you know, crowding their schedule area. So you can actually organize your schedules this way. But let's go and copy our schedules. So we have our master framing cut list and our master sheathing cut list. And these are the two elements that our shop drawings are referring to create our framing cut list and our sheathing schedule, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you can right click, copy to clipboard, or you can hit Control C and then go to the new project. To any plan view, just click inside the plan view, and you have to go Control V, okay? V for Victor. And you'll notice that they're empty because we don't have anything drawn in our file, right? It's a brand new file, so we don't have anything drawn in here. But at the end of this webinar, you'll see that it will get populated, all right? So we have created those schedules, and now it's time to export all of our MWF settings, all right? So first thing we're going to export is we'll come to our MWF tab. We're going to move into our wall module, and we are going to export, go to settings, and we're going to go to global settings import/export on my other screen. And over here, if you're importing any settings, you'll click on this browse over here at the top. If you're exporting any settings, you'll click on this browse at the bottom. So now we're going to export these settings to the desktop within the webinar folder inside Family Library. How about that? Okay. So we want to save them over there. We'll hit export. And then we'll say export completed, and we'll hit OK, and we'll hit close. So we did step 1 was exporting our global settings. Step 2 is we're going to go to our template manager here and export all of our single layer templates. Why? Because they're the ones that are assigned to our multi-layer templates. So we need to grab our single layer templates so that when we export our multi-layer map, it already has all of these templates in the file prior to doing anything else. All right, so let's start that export procedure. Make sure you go to project if that's where your templates are saved. Hit export, and you'll come here. It will show this to you. So it doesn't matter which folder you're in, it will show you all the folders. So the first part here is your folder name, and then it will be your template name. In our case, we're just doing wood, so I'm not going to export everything. I'm only going to export our wood templates. So I'm not going to export our light gauge and the regular wood templates either, because I would like to leave those as my default. In case this project had some modifications, I don't want to touch those. So I'm going to bring this in, and that in, and then I'm going to go down here and bring in all of these wood templates. Okay, so I'm going to bring all of this in, and I'm going to hit close. Oh, sorry. Before hitting close, hit export. And then we are going to go to our folder again, and we are going to call this residential SL templates. Okay, so those are my residential single layer templates, and I'll save them, and I'll hit close, and I'll hit close here. All right, so that's what I'm going to do for that one. And then I'm going to go into my settings tab or settings button here. Give it a second. Oh, it opened up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sheathing templates. Okay, so you can see that I have a few sheathing templates created. I'm going to export these as well. So I'll come here and I'll hit export. And basically, I'm going to export all except for the default template. I don't want to overwrite my default settings just in case something goes crazy, something goes corrupt. I have my default settings as a backup. Okay, so I don't want to overwrite whatever MWF just adds in by default. So I'll hit that and go export. And then again, I'm going to call it residential sheathing templates. Okay, and I'll hit that save button, and I'll hit close. Now that we have our single layer templates and we have our sheathing templates, what we can come and do here is go to our wall type map and export our wall type maps. Okay. So when we're exporting these, if you do have multiple different types of maps, make sure to export each one of them, okay? So this button only exports the current map, but if you have multiples, please make sure that you export each one of them with different names so that when you're importing them, you know you have to import all of these different types. So I'll come here and I will export this default map, and I'll call it residential multi-layer ML templates. Okay, so now that we have all of them, you can see that I have my plywood applied and I have a wood 600 EXT template applied. If you did have any secondary templates, you can export those as well. But for right now, these are all I need. I'll just hit OK and we are good. The last thing we need to export, the most important one, of course, is our shop drawing settings. So over here, I'm not going to export the MWF 11:17. Again, don't want to override the default. And whenever you hit the export button, it gives you a warning and tells you, please make sure you transfer all of your drawing standards and your viewports and your view templates, etc., because it doesn't know what else you've added to the settings. So just make sure to export all of that extra stuff that you're referring to, and so that you can your settings won't give you errors basically in the future. So right now I'm not going to do the 11:17 because those are my default settings. I'll just do the residential shops and say okay. And again, I'll save it in the family library and I'll call it residential shop settings or shop drawing settings. All right, so we have the residential shop drawing settings exported. We're saving those and we'll hit close and that's it. All right, now we're done all of our exporting. Now it's time to go and do some importing. And also if you have any floor templates created or settings created, you can do your global settings, import and export from here as well. And then from your template manager, oh man, this will take a second. You can hit the export button in there as well. All right, so I'm just hoping it does not crash on me, guys. So sorry. All right, there you go. There's the export button that we waited so long for. But you can basically export all of your templates for your floors as well. I don't have any custom templates. I'm just using the defaults, so I don't need to do this. But if you did have any, you could export them like this. All right, great. So now it's time to do all the importing. So now that we finished all the exporting, let's go to our new project that we have. And we're going to start doing all the importing. So first thing we're going to import. There is method to this madness. We do have to follow the steps to the T, just because I'll explain as we go along, but just because if it doesn't find that setting, it's going to be like, oh, where is this? You told me to refer to this, but I can't find it in your project, and it'll keep giving you errors. So it's important to follow the steps in order. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Template Manager, and we are going to import all of our single layer templates. Make sure your storage is set to project. If you copied it from project, it has to go into project, okay? So now make sure you're in your storage is in project, especially for multi-layer. It definitely needs to be within project, okay? So just to quickly explain the difference between disk and project. Disk is saved on your C drive, and project is saved within the project. So when you're on disk, if there's multiple people working on the project, they don't have access to those same templates as you do. So you might have used maybe light gauge LGS 200S template or 250S template, but someone else might not have access to that, and it might cause a little bit of issues if they're trying to regenerate some wall panels and so on and so forth. So it's important to stay in project, and even multi-layer, it reads only elements from project or templates from project. So please be mindful of that. All right, now we're going to hit import, and we'll import our residential SL templates and go open. And there you go, all of my templates got saved here. So anything that was in the default folder, which was the wood 600s, those got saved here. And then anything inside the LGS folder got saved here. And you can see that it's a copy. So that means I actually duplicated one of my existing templates. So it will show you the copy functionality. So that means I actually copied one of the Revit, MWF defaults that we already provide. And the reason you see LGS and wood here is because I have Pro Suite, and these are our default templates that we provide to you guys. So that's what we have here. So we imported our single layer templates. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to settings, and we are going to load data. So when we do load data, oops, sorry, not load data. Oh my God. I'm going to go to settings and then go in global settings, import, export. You can go to the import browse now because we're going to import those settings, and it's going to be the zip file here. So you'll hit open, and you will basically, if you did have those templates already preloaded, it will ask you if you want to copy your existing templates. I don't want to copy them. I'm just going to leave them as is. All right, so I'm just going to hit import. So the global settings import export brings in any of your member priorities that you might have set up, your material schemes, your what else? Your marker styles you might have created for join markers, your precedences or your settings for which wall takes precedence when you're creating a default join, like the thicker wall or the skinnier wall, or a specific wall type, basically. So all of those settings are being imported right now, and it takes a little bit, but that's it. It imported all of those settings for us. Okay, and then after we do that, we are going to now go into settings, and we will import, sorry, open up on the other screen. We will import our sheeting templates. So you see that my sheeting templates didn't get loaded in with the global settings. So we are going to import those as well. So we'll go import, and we'll click on our sheeting templates and say open. And there you go. All of our sheeting templates have been added in. And then the next step I will do, I typically like to hit OK so it knows that we did this. And then I'll go to settings again. And over here, I will now import all of my maps that I've created. So if I have a single map, I'll just go import map and multi-layer templates and say, okay, that's it, open it. But if you, that's okay. So over here, it says that, hey, this template already exists. Do you want to override it? And I'll just say, yep, sure, why not? Because we just imported all those templates. So if it's remembering it more, it's much better, right? So after it does that, I can go take a look at my exterior brick on wood stud. So this wall, it applied all of my mapping to it because the other project is wood, so I didn't populate the steel walls. But it did populate the wood wall. That's exactly what I wanted. So if I hit OK here, and now what I can do is I can, I have to also import my shop drawing settings. So let's go to Wall Drawings Manager here. Right now, I don't have any of my defaults. So if I wanted to bring in my defaults just as a backup, I could just say, create default settings. No, yes, this is surprising. Okay, so I'm just going to go here and hit import. And again, it's telling you, make sure you transferred all of them. And we'll select the setting that we want to bring in. And you'll see it says residential shops. And if there was a duplicate, I would hit overwrite. And there you go, residential shops has been imported. Now I can save, before I draw anything in this project, I can save this as a template, okay? So I can come here and go File, Save As, Template. All right, and I'm going to go to the family library and I'm going to call it Residential Imperial Template, or Imperial Residential Template, okay? So that's all I'm going to call it. And I'm just going to make sure that I have enough backups for it. I like to have at least 3 backups just in case we updated it, lost our settings, we have a backup just to just to take care of it, right? But if you are saving it on a server, your server probably backs up automatically, so you might not need to do that. Or if you're saving it on Box Drive or OneDrive, it does have versioning control, so you might not need to save many backups, but this is pretty decent. So we'll save this. All right. So give that a second. All right, now that this is saved as my template, what I can do is close this, and I'm going to go File, New, Projects, and I'm going to open. I'm going to create a project and use the original template that I created here as the base. So I'm going to use that template to create my project, and I'll say OK. Oh no, do I have it open again? Yeah, it's probably open here. No, that's all good. Okay, so I'll do that again. Sorry guys, I had the file open. But basically I'll come here, go browse again, go to desktop, webinar, family library, residential imperial, open, and I'll say OK. And now you can see it says project 1 instead of residential imperial as the file name. I'm not sure if it's too small for you guys, but yeah, it's called project 1. So now what I can do is draw a wall. I'll draw a 10-foot wall. And I'll zoom in. I will make it fine. You could have set up we could have set all of this stuff up in our template file, but I'm just going to do it right now in front of you guys so that you can see. We're also going to set it up to be shaded. And what I'm going to do is make sure this wall is EXT Woodstead. There you go, brick on Woodstead. And then the other thing I'm also going to do is just make this wall transparent so we can see all of our studs being created. I like to make it 80% transparent, so now I can see through it. And what I'm going to do is just select the wall and go to go to operations, go to quick create. Give that a quick second. Since MWF has not been used on this project, or I've never created any wall panels on this project, it's loading in all of those settings and those default templates and stuff like that. So that's why it takes a little bit for the first time. But yeah, you must be wondering why the panel is named 301. It is actually because of when you import your project settings, or when we did our transfer project settings, you remember how we imported project info? So when you import project info, we have this thing called last panel number. So over here right now, the last panel number got modified to 301 because we created our last panel, which was 301. But if this was set to 0 or set to 1, it would have created panel 1 in the project, okay? So just know that's why it happened. But now that I have my studs created, I have sheathing in this panel, I'm just going to test my shop drawings and see if those came in properly. So I'm just going to quickly create a shop drawing. And if I come here, so right now you can see that we imported our browser organization, but it still says all. I can actually change this and change it back to my sheet prefix, which was my custom one. And if I go to P, the panels are all located in here, okay? So that's what we imported. And you can see our shop drawing settings are pretty decent. It seems like there was some mess up with the dimensions, but it's an easy fix because majority of the stuff is already preset for you and pre-done for you. So if I come here and I just go through the shop drawing settings, take a look at the floor plan, dimensions, and maybe, oh wow, I have to just find it. There you go. Ordinate. And then again, same thing with this guy. It will be linear ordinate. It happens sometimes, like it might not be able to find it. Maybe we renamed the dimension after the shop drawings were created. That happens. But yeah, you can load those in and say, okay, but I'll have to do that for all of my views and recreate the shop drawing. But that's basically it. You can see that it grabbed all the data for the weights for the families as well, because we copied the families from the other project. And over here, you can see the tracks I forgot to put in a weight for. So if I was to populate this here and say it's, oops, 1.64, enter and say okay. It will automatically do the calculation, and from now on, it already has all of that data placed in. But yeah, that is it for how you would actually transfer your project standards. If you also wanted to transfer things like your markers, you can do that as well. You can go to Marker Manager and come here, down here, there's the export button. You can export it and it will export everything from like your openings to your split framing or your split settings. Sorry, your split settings here, or your join conditions. It will grab all of that data. So when I hit the export button here, you will see that it does all of the joins, panel join signatures. It will do the breaking horizontals and verticals, cap tracks, your, again, join settings, your void framing, which is your opening framing. All of those elements are getting exported, but when you're exporting, make sure you say overwrite on import. That way it will overwrite all of them when you're importing it on the other side, okay? But yeah, you could export your markers as well. And the same thing you could do with your, just gonna click on this guy. And the same thing you can do with your whole series and stuff like that, right? So if you wanted to export those, you can go to edits and, is it under edits? Let's quickly check. Sorry, tools maybe. There you go. Edit whole series. You could edit your whole series and over here, I don't have any in here, but if you did have any, you could actually just export all of them by hitting this button, and it will export your whole series as well. And that's it for today's webinar. Any questions?
Awesome. Thank you, Aparna. So as she just mentioned, if you have any questions, we'd like to open the floor to all of you. So if you'd like to pose a question live, please raise your hand now by clicking on the hand icon in the control panel. Just please also make sure that your audio is working correctly. And just while we wait for any potential questions to come through, I'd just like to remind everyone that the recording of the presentation will be sent through tomorrow. As always, please feel free to share the recording with any colleagues. And also, if you're looking for the recording a little earlier, you can usually find it at the end of the day today across our social media channels. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds. All right, then. So that looks like that's a wrap for today. If there are any questions that have been submitted through the chat, we'll make sure to get to them as soon as possible by email. As well as if you'd like to set up a one-on-one demonstration, or as I mentioned, any follow-up questions after the session has closed, our contact details as well as the recording will be provided tomorrow. All right, well, we'll now be ending the webinar. I just want to say a big thank you to Aparna, and also thank you to everyone who registered. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.